Hi everyone, welcome to another very simple, soft-spoken, chatty video. Not about Buffy this time. I will be fulfilling a different request. All about language and how I came to be bilingual. But before we get started, even though you cannot tell, I am filming in the daytime. It's evening, but it's still light outside, so we will definitely be joined by some birds. Hopefully that's not too distracting. Now, let me get the request here. So this was a request that I got through Instagram by a wonderfully kind person named Heather, and they sent such a kind message. It's really sweet, and they requested a soft-spoken video explaining how I learned English. So they ask at what age, if any pop culture TV programming helped me, and perhaps talk about what makes it easier or harder to speak in other languages, and how I've perfected it so much more masterfully than most, which is too sweet. So that's what we'll be talking about. And I will probably check back later to see if I addressed everything. But thank you, Heather, for your super kind message and your lovely request. I'm still just really only up to making really simple videos, so I appreciate those kind of requests because it makes me feel like even though I'm just doing the bare minimum, I'm still making someone happy with that specific video. So, okay, English. So, as most of you know, I live in Belgium, born and raised here. My father is Belgian, and my mother is from Suriname. But Suriname was a Dutch colony, so the official language in Suriname is also Dutch. So I was just raised by two Dutch-speaking parents. My dad does not speak English. He tries sometimes, but it's abysmal. My mom's English was decent, but far from perfect, and with a heavy accent. So both of them are not responsible in any way for teaching me English. The person that got it all started was my oldest sister. So I have two sisters. They're both older. And my oldest sister is 10 years older than I am. So when she was 18, she went to college to get a teaching degree in English, geography, and religion. And so I was 8 at the time. And I don't know why, I don't know what gave her the idea, but basically she started teaching me English at that point. So she will probably be watching this. When she sees the title of this video, she will click it to see if she gets her proper credit. And I've mentioned in the past that my memory is pretty weird when it comes to my childhood. So if I get anything very wrong, she will be in the comments correcting me. But yeah, so she started teaching me English. And basically what she did was she would speak to me in English most of the time. And she also, the way I remember it, she forbade me from watching any Dutch children's TV. So I don't remember pretty much ever watching Dutch children's TV. I must have before these years, but I don't remember it. All I remember is watching CBeebies, which was like the children's programming of the BBC, which is a British television network. So she would be speaking English to me, and I would only watch English spoken children's TV. But she would also give me like little assignments. So she wasn't like a drill sergeant. They were all kind of, I guess, age-appropriate assignments. She would give me songs or rhymes to learn. One that stuck with me until this day is The Bartman, which was like a rap by Bart Simpson from the TV show The Simpsons. And when I was still like learning in the beginning, she would have me memorize the last words of each line. And so she would sing, rap the rest of the line, and I would come in with the last word. So that would go like, yo, hey, what's happening? And I would say, dude, I'm a guy with a rap for being rude, terrorizing people wherever I go. It's not intentional, just keeping the flow. Fixing test scores to get the best scores. Dropping banana peels all over the floor. I'm the kid that made delinquency in art. Last name Simpson, first name Bart. and it goes on for quite a while. But so I would start just learning the last words. But then as you go along and as you perform your little skit, you learn the rest of the lines as well. So that's kind of what she used to do. And so I started at age 8. Now, in Belgium, you start learning French in elementary school around age 10 at the time, because Belgium is a Dutch and French speaking country. So around age 10 I started learning French in school, and then in high school we don't have like middle school and then high school, we just call the 6 years high school. So when I went to high school, in the second year of high school, you start being taught English. So when I was 12, because I have a late birthday, so when I was 12, I started learning English in high school. And, by this time, my sister had graduated college and she was teaching. She later went back to college to get her degree to teach Dutch as well. And I smiled because she was in fact a tyrant when it came to Dutch. So with English it was always more for fun, but with Dutch, so my Dutch is also impeccable, thanks to her. So at that point my sister wasn't really involved anymore. She would still motivate me and we would still often speak English to each other or use English words and phrases, but she wasn't as involved at that point. So school kind of took over. This is also when I started writing my journals in English, because up until that point my sister just taught me to speak and understand English, so we never focused on writing. It's not that she sat me down to teach me how to write anything. So the first years was just speaking and understanding. So when I got to high school and got to English class, I could really focus on, making sure that my written English was as well. Making sure that my written English was strong as well. And so to practice, I started writing in English in my journals, which is very laughable those first years, but I quickly perfected it. So when other kids were just still learning the basics, I could really focus on, perfecting everything, getting my writing in order, and most importantly, expanding my vocabulary. Now, both the lessons from my sister and the lessons in school were in British English. And the children's TV I watched was also in British English because I watched BBC. But obviously that did not take because I don't have a British accent. So I think this is because of two reasons. One, I started consuming from quite a young age ridiculous amounts of media. So TV shows and movies. And they were 95% American. So, and by ridiculous amounts, I do mean ridiculous amounts. My parents tried to limit my screen time. They tried, and I guess up until like age 12, they were fairly successful. But the second I got my big room with a TV, it was over. It was just over. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to tell a kid with insomnia who cannot sleep regardless that she should just lie there and not watch TV? I mean, you could. I suppose they could have tried, or I don't know. Basically, I guess they figured that I already had enough problems and they wanted me to have that. So I would watch tons of TV. A couple of years later, when we got a computer, and even later when I got a computer in my room, so I just was consuming so much American English, and I guess that is just what stuck with me because I just watched so much of it. But the second reason is that I just can't do it. I think it sounds really ridiculous when you put on an accent. So, they try to teach you British English, but you're not British though. You're not. So, you have to do it. You have to turn it on. And I just think it sounds ridiculous. And not just when I do it, but I thought it sounded ridiculous when my teachers did it, when my fellow students did it, and personally, I think it sounds ridiculous when my sister does it too. It just sounds very unnatural to me. So the British English didn't take. And what happened instead is I developed this strange sort of mid-Atlantic, transatlantic version of speaking English. So, I don't know if you've heard about the transatlantic accent, but it actually used to be a type of accent that was taught in America, I guess, to rich people, but also to people pursuing the arts, so that wanted to be actors or journalists or something like that. Then the transatlantic accent was kind of what they were taught. I guess because it's a sort of neutral accent with a hint of fanciness, because you do emphasize the enunciation of certain letters, certain tones. So, they tried to make me British, but I was desperate to stay in America, and I ended up in the middle of the Atlantic. That's kind of my explanation for why I sound the way I do. Now, I must say that when I'm filming, I do make sure to be extra mindful of my diction. So when I'm just speaking English outside of filming, I would say that I sound even more Americanized than what you hear in videos. Yeah, definitely. So, because to me, voice and speech patterns are everything in ASMR, literally everything. I do not care what you do in your videos. I only care about the speaking. I never watch non-talking videos. I never watch inaudible videos. I only care that you speak, preferably throughout the whole video. And when I find a new creator, I know within a minute if I'm ever going to watch them again, because all I care about is your speech pattern. So I make sure that I sound the way I want other people to sound, with an emphasis on your T's and your K's, but not the K, but the K. So all the words with T's and K sounds, that's the good stuff. So I do make sure that when I'm filming, I don't swallow any of those letters. So yeah, when I'm just speaking English, outside of filming, I would say that I sound pretty much American. So yeah, that's that. Now, explained why I am so good at English, because pretty much everyone in Belgium gets English in school. Pretty much everyone in Belgium consumes a ton of American media, and not everyone in Belgium speaks English as well as I do. Now, I do feel like more people in Belgium speak English pretty well compared to other countries, because what is pretty great about Dutch is that TV shows and movies, when they are shown here, they aren't dubbed. So all English-speaking TV shows that we get on TV or movies, they are not dubbed. So we always still hear the original English. And in, honestly, most other countries, French, Spanish, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, whatever, almost everything gets dubbed. And so I feel like that really impedes the learning of the language when you constantly hear dubbed TV shows. So there are a lot of people in Belgium that speak English fairly well because of that reason. Especially the younger generation that, and by younger generation I mean 40 and younger, because they really watch a lot of American or English spoken media. But still, why this? Why am I fluent? So for this, we really have to look at the interplay of the determining factors in what makes us who we are. And so that's a combination of nurture, nature, and, personal determination, individual interest. And so I've already explained a lot of the nurture. My sister, school, media, the fact that TV and movies aren't dubbed here. So that's all part of nurture. But then there's also nature. And so when I was 17, I was fully tested to find out what was wrong with me. So I was fully tested for a couple days in hospital and followed up for months. And so one of the tests they did was an IQ test. And so when you get an IQ test done, like a real IQ test, most people don't even know what that entails. You get several numbers. So you get your performant IQ, your verbal IQ, your processing speed, basically, like your CPU, and a total. And so if we zoom into the verbal IQ, I tested like well into gifted territory. So over 2 standard deviations from the average is gifted, and I'm well in there. So that means that I had my nature going for me. So all of that nurture that was happening was really able to, thrive because I had the natural ability to learn languages. But then I mentioned that little third factor because my French is by no means as good as my English is. Even though I started learning French in school at age 9 or 10, even though I have that natural ability to learn languages, so in high school my French grades were really good because I had to study it. And my grades were really good. So I had one of my best friends was a boy from the Walloon provinces. So he was from the French-speaking part of Belgium. So he spoke French fluently. And my grades were better than his. So there was a time that I was really good at French as well. But I don't like French. I don't. And so that third factor, the personal preference aspect of it all, really plays into it as well. Because I just loved English. I loved it from the beginning. And I don't like French. I never had any sort of intrinsic motivation to learn it. So that's really what made English take off. I loved English and I loved learning English. I loved speaking English. I just wanted to speak it all the time. The second, internet became a thing, I was out there connecting with English-speaking people all the time. Anyone that I met voluntarily on the internet spoke English. And out of the people that I was forced to meet in life, I would also select the ones that spoke English, and when we would chat on MSN or whatever, we would speak English. So these were Belgian friends, spoke Dutch, and I would speak English with them all the time, and I still do. I have friends that I never text in Dutch, that do speak Dutch. So, and we always text in English. English is just better. The English language has so many more words than Dutch. Now, it's kind of impossible to say that because Dutch has a different grammatical rule. So in Dutch, when you combine two words, like summer holiday, In English, that's 2 words, summer holiday. And in Dutch, you stick them together and it becomes 1 word, zomervakantie. And that's the case for almost every word in Dutch. So if there is no issue with pronunciation, words just get stuck together, all of the words. So a Dutch dictionary is never complete because there are infinite combinations of words possible. Still, there are just more words in English to start with. You can find more synonyms for every adjective than you can find in Dutch. And I don't know, I've always liked the language. I am much wittier, much funnier in English than I am in Dutch, and much more well-spoken. So my English vocabulary is, without a doubt, greater than my Dutch vocabulary. So what helped me? Okay, so that kind of all explains how we got here. I do also want to mention, in terms of pop culture, that it wasn't just TV and movies that helped me learn and improve. And I want to mention this little anecdote. So, I don't think I ever fully explained my college and university career, but I started studying one thing that I really wanted to do, but it was a little further away from home, so I couldn't stay at home. And after 4 days, I quit because I missed my mom. I couldn't cut it. I couldn't. And at the time, I felt like the biggest failure, but 3 months later, she was dead. So in hindsight, very happy that I failed and I came back home because it gave me that time with her. But so 4 days later, I came home and I had to have a plan B. What was my plan B? I went to the same teacher college that my sisters went to. And I was studying English, mathematics, and economics at the college. And so my English professor, he gave us this assignment that we needed to do over the course of the first semester, where we needed to compile a list of vocabulary that we learned in that semester. So we had a reading list, and the idea was that when you were reading books and short stories from the list, if you run into a word you don't know, you look it up and you have to add it to your vocab list. And so you had to type in the word, where you found it, its translation, and then use it in an English sentence. Problem was that in our required reading, I was not finding any words that I didn't know. I found a couple, like 5, but you needed 120 to complete the assignment. So, problem. Now, obviously, I could just fake it and just use random difficult or long words and put them in the list. But you were going to be graded on the difficulty of your vocabulary list. So, of the complexity of the words that you found. So I didn't want to just fake it, you know. I was the best in the class in terms of English, and I wanted my grades to reflect that, which is possible in Belgium because we don't have letter grades, so you don't just have a bunch of kids that get an A+. You get percentages, so you can really differentiate who is best. So I didn't want to fake it, so I talked to my professor and was like, dude, what am I supposed to do? And he said, abandon the reading list and just anywhere you find words that you don't know yet, you can include them. So most of my vocab list was sourced from metal lyrics. So I was listening to tons of metal at the time, mostly new metal, so Slipknot, Korn, Deftones, stuff like that. And Mudvayne. And so most of my vocabulary list would have metal songs as their source because there's a lot of really interesting new words in metal lyrics. Yeah, and thankfully that was okay for my professor. So pop culture really helped me, including metal lyrics. Very interesting and challenging. I don't think I would have been able to fill a tenth of that list with regular like pop music or what was popular at the time, which was like dance and techno and electronic badness. But metal really helped me. So I just wanted to share that. Okay, and then, so Heather asked, what makes it easier or harder to learn a language? And I do want to mention that I think that the language you start from is very important. For example, if you are French speaking and you need to learn Dutch, or if you're English speaking and you need to learn Dutch and have an almost undetectable accent, next to impossible. Seriously. Personally, I've never heard anyone speak Dutch that didn't have it as a first language that you couldn't tell, just a little bit. So the language you start from really helps, and Dutch just happens to be a very comfortable language to start from when you're learning other languages. There's almost nothing we can't pronounce, whereas it's very difficult when you're coming from French or English. These are the languages I have most experience with. When that's where you're coming from, it can be very difficult to pronounce certain tones. So that helps. Dutch is just a very easy base, a very easy language to start from. And so, yeah, the only thing that makes it difficult for me is really that I have such a hard time faking an accent. And with English, that doesn't give me any trouble. And even with French, that didn't give me any trouble. If you have the correct pronunciations down, there's no real, I mean, you'll hear that that it's not your first language, but it doesn't sound wrong. But I am currently learning Italian, and it sounds wrong because I can't put on the accent, and in Italian you really need it. If you speak neutral Italian, which is what I tend to do, it doesn't sound like Italian. It just doesn't. So that does make it difficult for me. But I'm actually going to try to film a little video with some Italian right after this, so you can go, and when that is published, you can go and see if you can hear what I mean. I do my best, but it still just sounds off. So I have that working against me in certain other languages. I think that's it. That was my story. So Heather also mentioned grammar specifically, and when it comes to grammar, it's mainly the nature at play, because I just know. So before I learned any grammar, any conjugations, why does that sound wrong to me now? Is that a literal translation from Dutch? Any verb tenses, any word order, syntax, any of that, I didn't learn. So we do get taught the basics of that in high school, but I didn't pay attention because I just knew. I just feel it. I just feel what the sentence is supposed to look like. So I don't know a single tense. If you were to give me a page of exercises and you would just give me a verb and a tense, failed. Failed. Absolute fail. Thankfully, that's not what they do in high school. You get sentences where you need to fill in a verb, or you just have to write freely. So the context of the sentence would tell me all I need to know. So I don't know a single tense. Which was confirmed when I was learning Italian. And, you're learning new tenses. So they refer to them in Dutch. They say like, okay, we're learning the imperativo or gerundo or condizionale, and they say the Dutch version of that tense. And I was like, never heard of this. Because both in Dutch and English, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just do it. I don't know what a preposition is. I now know what an adverb is and what an adjective is because of my recent Italian lessons, but before that, no idea. I just do it. It just comes out. And so in spoken English, that's fine. If I were to have to construct for example, a scientific article in English, then you would be able to tell that it's not my first language. So, well, maybe not everyone, but people that are really good in English would be able to tell. So, because I never learned, I could just already do it, so I figured I don't need to pay attention to the theory because I can already do it. So when I had tests, I would just look at, okay, what's the tense called? So that if on the test it said, write 10 lines about your weekend using, I'm just going to say simple past because that's all I know. Or like write 10 lines about your ideal vacation using the future. Something future. So that I would know what they were asking for, so that I would know which one to use. So that's basically all the prep work I did for tests, was just, okay, which tenses can I encounter here? And I was good to go. So, yeah, okay, that's it. I talked for a long time, but that's not bad, I guess, in an ASMR video. Anyway, Heather, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this explained everything. If anyone has any more questions, let me know. I do want to state, though, that I am not claiming that you cannot hear that English isn't my first language, okay? I'm not claiming that. But many, many, many people on YouTube have claimed that. But I know that you can pick up that it's not my first language by my accent. So I just wanted to state that in case anyone is going to comment, oh, I could totally tell. I know that you can tell. Don't worry. Okay, thanks for listening. Languages are so great. Please motivate your children to learn them. There are great apps available now where it's basically a game. You're learning a language through a game. So I think that's a great thing to motivate your children to do. Spend 10 minutes a day on a language. It helped me out so much. I ended up studying sociology at university. And, we had several courses just fully in English, and almost all of the scientific papers are written in English. So it was a huge benefit where my fellow students were just spending hours and hours and hours to struggle through a paper just to understand it. I could just read it as if it was Dutch. So, huge benefit to me in college and university. So, yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Thank you, sister, if you've made it this far. Thank you for stimulating me, motivating me, and yeah, appreciate it. Good night, everyone.